Hello students, here is your next flipped vocabulary lesson for Storytown Lesson 24. For this activity, you will need your vocab sheet, a pen or a pencil, and optionally a highlighter. Let's take a look at the directions once again. Those directions are: watch and listen to this presentation on your own. Feel free to pause and go back as needed. Then write the definition or meaning of each word in the middle column of your vocab sheet. And finally, write a brief response to each question that goes along with the vocabulary word. Are you ready to get started? Let's go! The first word on our list this week is a noun. The word is descendants, and we know that descendants is a noun because a noun is a person, place, or thing, and a descendant is a person. The definition of a descendant is your relatives in future generations. So your descendants are the opposite of your ancestors. Your ancestors are the people who came before you in previous generations. Your descendants come after you. So answer this question: who will your descendants be? Next word on the list this week is fertile. Fertile is an adjective or describing word when it's used in a sentence. Let's look at the definition. Fertile means land that is full of nutrients that are good for growing crops. I think probably you've heard this word in your social studies lessons this year. If you wanted to use the word fertile in a sentence, you could use it this way: the Midwest is known for its fertile soil and abundant crops. Now think about this. Where did ancient people usually find fertile land? Write your response on your vocab sheet. Here's our next word: flourishing. Flourishing can be an adjective or a verb when it's used in a sentence. Remember, this is because you can take the verb and use its present participle either as a verb in another tense or as an adjective or describing word. Here's the definition of flourishing: something that is successful and growing rapidly. So, if you wanted to use flourishing in a sentence, you might say, the city experienced a population boom and was flourishing. Now, let's look at this question. What components are needed for plants to flourish? Think about what a plant needs and write it in your vocab sheet. Here's our next word: immortalize. We can tell that immortalize is a verb or action word because it has one of the common verb suffixes at the end, I-Z-E. If you just had the word immortal, it would be either an adjective, or if you were talking about a god or a goddess, then it could be the noun. But with the I-Z-E ending, it's a verb or action word. Immortalize means to do or create something to keep the memory of a person living on. So you might say that you immortalized a person by making a statue for them. Now think about this question. What's another thing you might do to immortalize someone? Write down your answer on your vocab sheet. Our next word this week is intact. Intact is an adjective or describing word. So let's take a look at the definition of intact. Something intact is something that is whole or undamaged. So if you wanted to use the word intact in a sentence, you could say, the family was so happy and relieved when their house escaped damage from the tornado and was intact. What is a word that means the opposite of intact? Write your idea on your vocab sheet. Here's our next word: primitive. Primitive is an adjective when it's used in a sentence. Here's the definition. Something primitive is something that is crude, simple, and not technologically advanced. So let's think back to what you learned about the Stone Age during social studies this year. You could use the word primitive in a sentence like this: people of the Stone Age used primitive tools made of stone, animal bone, and other very simple natural objects. Now, think about this question. What is a primitive way to travel? Write your response on your vocab sheet. Our penultimate word this week is reinforced. Reinforced can be an adjective or a verb. This is another case of using the past participle of the verb, in this case reinforce, and taking that past participle and using it to describe something. You can use it either way in a sentence. Reinforced means something that has been given additional strength and support. So, you might hear your teacher say that the reason they give you homework is to reinforce the things you have learned in class. So, think about this question. How might you reinforce a door? Write your response on your vocab sheet. Our final word this week is ritual. A ritual is a noun, which is a person, place, or thing, and in this case, ritual is a thing. A ritual is a ceremony that involves a series of actions performed in a set order. So, you might say this in a sentence. Many churches have their own rituals for weddings and funerals. What is a summer ritual for your family? I'd like to see your response on your vocab sheet. You've finished another vocabulary lesson. Nice job. So what's next? First, go back to review any words you do not understand. Please highlight or circle any words you still have questions about, and we will discuss them in class. Then, be ready to play a review game in class using these words. Throughout the week, you will read and understand stories that use these vocabulary words in them. And finally, as always, you will use each word in an original sentence, and this will be your end of week quiz. Good luck to you, and see you next week!